As promised, I put together a book that uses the different elements that I've made on my videos so you can see them in a book. And then I thought I would put one together in front of you so you can see kind of what I did. It might be a long video. We'll see how this goes, but this book uses the cover from an old primer, but it has a different inside, and I've stitched in pages. There's many like tucks, you have your belly bands, there's some weaving. This is a tuck that you can glue it in. I have it tied in. This is a little mini notebook here. Some different junk journal pages that I've made with different elements. This is a flip out, if you recognize that one. Here's another belly band with one of our other tucks that we made. If I can get it out. Oh, it's sticking there. Well, I guess I need to reglue that. This is a hidden paper clip with just a block for writing and some weaving. We have our different tabs. This is a double tuck using a page of a children's book. The tucks don't necessarily match, but I wanted to just show you. Here's a little mini notebook with a wax seal. And here's another just simple notebook writing space for inside the journal. Some more weaving. This is a belly band. I don't have anything in it right now. Just some pages. Here's a tuck. And this has vellum, so it's protected, but you can still see it. Another belly band with our postcard tuck. Here's some envelope. That's the center of it. More pages for writing. More weaving. This is a belly band with a tuck that also has a belly band. Another one of these made from vintage papers. And this is the back of the book. This was a masterboard that I made on a video. And then the tie to close it up. Oh, I need to get one more wrap around there. Alright, I'm going to tie this up and we'll pull out some supplies to make one from scratch. I've been collecting different items that I've made in this bin specifically for a book, so kind of on theme and similar colors, because I was trying to organize myself before I started this video. This has been like a couple weeks in the making where as I've seen things, I've tucked them in here. I have different fold outs, I have different pop out things, I have some clips, a little notebook. So you'll see there's a lot of different things that I've made in other videos. We have our little pop outs. I really want to make a book that's kind of a sassy woman book. And buried at the bottom of this, I believe, is the book I want to turn into my next junk journal. I think I'm going to do the binding a little bit different with this one because it's so narrow. For this one, I was able to keep the original binding because it was fairly wide enough for what I was doing. But this one, you'd only be able to put like 3 junk journal pages in there and it would be full. So we're going to take this apart a little bit more. So I'm going to set all of this deliciousness aside. And we'll just start with taking the book apart. We're going to cut the binding out and we'll set aside the pages. These pages are also great. I want to save them because I can use them for so many things. We may even use some of them in this book if I feel inspired. I'm breaking the binding right now. If I was trying to save the binding portion, I would be a little more careful. But since that part doesn't matter, I'm going to cut this off. I think this book might have been rebound at the library at some point. Maybe it was overused. I'm not sure until I open it up early. You can use a razor for this or scissors. If you're trying to save the back part of the binding, then you want to take it slow. But I'm not as worried about that because I'm going to just cut all of this part out. So I'm really cutting along this paper piece, and we can cut off any extra paper from the cover and back. I love the way this old book is stitched. Oof, but it's got some glue dust coming off of it. So we're going to set the pages aside, and we're just looking at our front and back. It's not going to be wide enough, so we're going to cut this centerpiece out, and we're going to make a new centerpiece for it. Actually, I need longer scissors for this. These are the good old Tim Holtz everything scissors. Again, you could use a razor for this if you really wanted to. I do want to save this image. I'm going to cover it partially, but I want to keep that vintage image for the front. Well, and the back, because it's such a decorated, or such a great decoration on the front and back. I hate to waste it. A lot of times I buy these old books just because of the cover, and I don't even care what's inside of them. Now, this doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to cover it up anyway. We have our front and our back. We've got to decide how wide do we want it. I like to have them fairly wide because then as I add tucks, I don't have to worry about busting the binding or getting that sort of triangle situation. Like this one's a little bulky. I'm going to need some material that will go with those colors and a piece of cardboard, or see what I have that kind of goes. This is a similar color. I don't know if I have a long enough piece. That one's long enough. It might be a little thin though. Sometimes if you have a thin material, the glues show through. So I try to go for a thicker one if I can. That one kind of matches if I could take a piece that's not too tie-dyed. The pink itself though is pretty good. I actually really like that. I think that's what I'm gonna do. So let's see. I think I can make a binding wide enough and cut out the majority of this tie-dye. So this is going to tuck under. That's going to tuck under, so it doesn't matter so much if there's tie-dye there. I don't care if it's cut perfectly because I like rough edges, but if that bugs you, then feel free to measure. I'm going to rough up these edges before I glue it down. Alright, so we have, maybe I'll put it like this, the wide end on the bottom. Kind of gives that brown, or that gives that blue edge, so it'll kind of look like this. I think that will work. Okay, so I'm going to line these up so they're as straight as I can get them. You could use a board that has the lines on it, the grid. I've done that before. I've gotten pretty good at eyeballing it over time. but then now I'm on camera, so I'll probably make a big mistake. I'm going to run glue along each edge, and I'm going to rub it in so it doesn't leave a big wet spot on the fabric. So we're just trying to thin it out. If you put too much glue on, it's okay, just wipe it off on something. This is the messier part of the whole project. Now, we're going to lay our fabric down. I think this will be wide enough. We'll see. Oh, I got a little bit of glue. I should have wiped my fingers off first, but oh well. We're going to let that dry for a second, but it's okay. So it's a bit narrow here on the end. I think I'm going to add something to it to widen it. Not sure what I'm gonna do here. Maybe I'll find a blue that kind of matches. I don't think that will do it. Here's this, that's too bright. Here's some vintage lace. Let's see if one of these will fit. Something like that. Actually, I think that might be the way to go. I only really need it that long, and I can always match it up on this side with a piece. Alright, that's what I'm going to do. So, let's put some fabric glue on there. I'm going to try to keep the thick glue to the thick weaving, and then we'll rub it along the thinner pieces. I might get a little glue on my table with this one. All good. Okay. Now we'll glue. So I'm going to take some quick measurements because I want it to fit in the center here, but leave a little bit of a gap so that the covers can fold well enough. So if I look, I need about 1.5 inches by 8.5, maybe not quite 8.5. 1.5 by 8.5. All right, so I'm just using this scrap bit of cardboard that I used underneath a different project, and it's not really my favorite. Now I could do 1.5 inches, or I could do 3 inches and fold it over, which I think I'm going to do. It's a thinner cardstock, so I'm going to do 3 inches and then fold it. So I'm going to find the 1.5 inches and put my scoring in there. I actually think I'm going to fold it the opposite direction here. Just makes for a straighter fold. There's no magic to it. So I'm going to glue it down just to make my life easier. And you don't have to do anything fancy with this because it won't leak through the paper. We're just giving it a little bit more structure. It's all going to be covered by fabric and other papers, so it doesn't have to be anything amazing. We're basically going to put this in the center here. We're going to glue this up, and then when we put the binding in later that has all the pages stitched to it, it's going to add an extra layer of cardstock that will provide support for that area. So I want to glue this in place, but I don't want to put a ton of glue on it because I don't want goopiness on my material. So I think I'm just going to do the ends and a little bit in the center and just rub it so that it's tacky, no gloppiness. I don't want it to be shifting around in there, but it's also not worth getting it all goopy gluey. Okay, and once that's in place, then we're going to fold up the material, and that will add a layer of protection here. Same thing, I'm going to rub it till it's tacky, This will be covered up, but still it's nice to not have any gloopiness. And try to push down in this seam, you know, get some glue in that seam so it's a little flatter. This will be a little bit more challenging because I don't know how high up it goes. Alright, here we go. There we have the binding structure there. We're on our way to having a book. We have our centerpiece now in place. It looks pretty cute so far. Next, we're going to cut the binding and the covers for the back, and I'm doing that now just so that I make sure I have it measured and then I can put the cutting board away. I do need to decide what kind of decoration I want on the inside of the book, because it will show, even the part where we stitch the pages in does show up. Now I could use vintage papers or a cardstock. I have some different types of papers in here. This is a little bit stronger of a paper. I have a couple of new books. I have this book. This one's kind of fun, and there's a lot of pink in here, so let's see what we can find. Maybe not. That could be fun on the inside. I actually really like that, so let's do this one. So I'm going to measure the actual white insert here because I'm going to try to cover it completely. 5.5 wide by 8.25 long. 5.5 by 8.25. So we're doing 11. And then 5.5, and that's just 5.5 times 2 is 11, so I cut it off that way. You could just cut 5.5 and cut 5.5. Alright, now we have our 5.5. We need 8.25 length. Ooh, look at those are a little bit different. 8.25. Those are fun. Okay, let's see how it looks in here. Oops. So we have our covers, and then the centerpiece. It's not as important because it will be covered by the papers that we bind into it, but we would like it to be the same color scheme so it doesn't look odd. Let's see about, you know, this section right here will show as an overlap. So let's find something that goes with it. Maybe that pink. That doesn't look too bad with, kind of matches both. I think that's what I'll do. Let's see. I want it to go from here to here, but we're also going to put a bend in it for our seam here. So if I just put it here and try to center it as best I can, I think if I do 4 inches, that should be sufficient to cover it. If I look at the material, it's 3.5, but it's not centered, so we're gonna have to do 4. So we're running out of room for all my junk. So 4 inches wide. And then the book is going to be a little bit wider than the inserts were, so we're going to go 8.5. Although, no, I'm going to stick to the same. I'm going to do 8.25, so it lines up. 8.25. And we'll save these extra papers for later in case we need to add a little bit of jazz to some pages. It'll help bring it all together. So now we have our centerpiece. So when we put it together, it's going to look like, actually we'll do this. So you'll see a little bit of the pink, but that won't be the primary thing. And then it will blend pretty well with the outside. But we'll have to bind this first. So I'm going to put some creases in this. I want to see how far apart these notches are, and it's 1 3/4, about 1 3/4 apart. So that makes it complicated. So for 4, 2 is our center. We're going to go almost an inch out on each side of the center. So I'm just going to go 1 notch in from the 1 and 1 notch in from the 3 towards the center. Then I have a bend, and it should fit pretty good in the binding here. So it bends with it. It'll help center the stitching too later on. So there. When we glue it down, then it'll keep that sturdiness. Perfect. Okay, so now we can set that part aside and we can start looking at our pages. I've separated out the tucks and the potential papers from the pile of projects that we did in other videos. So I have some from my jelly printing. And we don't have to use all of them, but I grabbed them anyway, so we have them. This is one of the image transfers. This was some weaving. That's a tuck, oops. This is a little writing insert that's on pages. These were, I'm not sure if I put these in a video as much as like there's photos online. This is one where you could, if it'll fit the book size, it can provide flaps in and out. You can like tuck it over a page. I guess I missed a few here. So I have a couple of these. I'm not sure how that will work in. And then these are the envelope pages that I made in one of the videos. I'm going to do 2 signatures. And a signature, for those of you who don't know, is a bundle of pages. And when you're putting the junk journal together, you will assemble pages together and then stitch that chunk in. So if we do 2 signatures of bundles of paper, that will fit in that size binding pretty well, and you'll still be able to fill all the different tucks. So I generally don't put more than 5 pages in a signature, because anything more than 5 and it will overflow. And really you have to think like 5 pages like this is going to be 10 flaps. So when you stitch it in, you're going to have actually 10 pages. So 20 total inside, plus all the little tucks and fun things that we add to it. So we got to divide this up to be our 5 pages per signature. So I like to take, the fancier stuff like this and make sure that it's divided between the 2 signatures so it's more spread out in the book. So I might take like one of those for here and then have, the envelope page for this side. And then I will make sure that I have this jelly plate decorated paper kind of divided between the 2 signatures. So we have 2. I have enough to do 2 more. I can do the smaller version. And then I'm not sure how I want to use this transfer. I think once it's folded in half, it will look pretty cool. you'll be able to see the image on one side, and I can put this one on that side, and that gives us what, 3, 4, 5 pages. 1, 2. Oh, I guess I do need one more over here. All right, is that right? Yes, I had 2 of those over there. Okay, I think this will work. So we want to figure out some of these bigger pages. We're going to figure out where we're going to cut them down. This one's going to be a little tricky, so we'll do this one first. It's not going to fit exactly as it is because it can only go as high as this book. So I will have to cut it down in some way. I could cut it here. It would cut off the top of her face, but that doesn't necessarily bother me. But I'll still have a flap here that's a little too glued down. It will overlap the center, so I got to figure out how I want to deal with that. I might just trim it down. I'm not sure. Or I could put it unevenly. That would work too. So I'm just going to use the book width this way to figure out where I'm going to cut it. And I want to glue it before I cut it so it doesn't become unwoven. This could be a good time to use glitter glue because you can get a finer tip with a glitter glue and just stick the tip in and glue down along that edge. And I think I might cut it up just a little bit from where I glued it so I can make flaps. Kind of keep the roughness off the edge. So maybe even tearing it off like this. We may be able to use some of these broken weaving pages on something, so I'm going to set that aside. So I'm not sure. I might be able to pull some of this out, but not all of it, to add a kind of a rough edge. And it'll stick out a little bit, but not so much that it causes problems. And then when I fold it, I'm actually going to make the center a little bit in from that flap. It's got to still be able to clear. Like if this is stitched in, it's still got to be able to open. No matter what, it's going to be a tough open, but that's okay. That should be good. So now when it's put in the book and you're looking at what hangs out, it'll be stitched in like this. You'll just see little peaks of the roughness. You can always tear this down if that bugs you. Okay, so there's one. Now some of these will be the right size just because it happens to, this is a pretty good, it's almost exactly 8.5 inches, so that makes life easy for these other pages. You could sit and score these and try to make them perfect, but I love the fact that junk journals are a little bit off. They don't have to be perfect. And you could even fold them a little off center to have different length images because they're going to be on opposite sides of your signature. It won't show unless you put it in the middle on purpose. Now this one's going to be, well, I guess it might be okay, but I might have to tear it down. It's a little thicker, and it is right, kind of has a little bit of an overlap, so when it's in the book, let's see if I can, it'll be stitched in like this. So well, no, I think it will be okay. but you could tear off a little bit if you didn't want it to be sticking out as much. So now I want to split these up in the signature so they're not right next to each other. They're just too similar. I think if we put these like this, let's see, if this laps over, then we have a little bit of a, I always try to look at the way that they layer each other to see if it still, you know, I don't know how to explain it. I want to see a little bit of art in how they lay next to each other. And then as they open, is it going to be interesting? Is there things to look at each time you, maybe not on both sides, but do the colors go together when you open it? And you really have to go all the way through. This is going to be the center. And it still looks good. We have that. We have this covering it, so when this opens, you'll still be able to open that flap. I think that's going to work. Now we're going to do the other side. I'm just going to fold these bigger ones in half and make my life easy. Now this one won't have much in the way of an image on that side. You can kind of see his face, but this side is going to look amazing. Now I could put it in the center and see the whole thing together, but I kind of like the idea of it being a little split up. I'm going to do something similar. Maybe I'll do it opposite. A little bit off. And this one can be in half. We have another shorter one this time, so. I do like that these colors went together, even if they don't perfectly match this. It's like a darker pink purple. I think I might put this in the center because it just has so much to it. Or maybe the, oh yeah, that, look at that. Decisions. Okay, so we're gonna have this partially on the outside. Wonder if we have an overlap like that. Then those two pages will be split up. This could still, that could still look okay. I might put that at the top. Sometimes you have to move them, like do you want them in the center? Or I try to disperse them so there is equal thickness, but I don't know if I like that. Maybe I'll do it like this. And then when it opens, no, I don't like that. Let's see. You know, I think I need, that one's kind of boring. I think I need this one on the outside. Okay. This is where I have to really think about how I want it to be. If this, I like the idea of like the almost all red with something on the outside. But then there's, these two are pretty close together. Although that's not too bad. I know this might seem like nitpicking, but you're going to put a ton of stuff in there too. So when we put these in like this, that actually kind of looks cool when they open up. And you have your two sides that kind of go together. I like it. You can do it a couple of ways. You can put your inserts and tucks and belly bands in now and then be able to stitch things if you decide you want to, or you can stitch these into the book, get it all assembled, and then put them in. I like to put the details in now in case I see something that needs a little bit more work I do have access to the sewing machine. These were made from a master board in one of the videos I did. So I have this collection. It doesn't all match extremely great. I like this side, but then this doesn't really go with the color scheme. So I'm not sure how I feel about using those. This would still work because it can be glued down. And actually, the tuck could still work. But not this one because it folds over. These are more like bookmarks, although you could use that as a belly band and cut it down. It is more purpley though. We have a bunch of other inserts here, so we're not going to fall short of creative things to put in it. So we have the same kind of style, a flap, but just a little bit different. I'm kind of dividing them between signatures so that they all get their day. This is a flap envelope that these I think will fit in there well enough. But we'll see when we go to put them in there. We have some tucks, which we'll add those in last. I think I'll just set those aside, all the little bookmarks and stuff. This is an insert that gets glued in. Let's see if I have another one like that. I have this, which is a similar, it's a one that opens up. And these are kind of inspirational, kind of sassy girl ones that I've done in the past. So I kind of set them aside because they'll go well together. I have a couple of different kinds of notebooks. This is a match style notebook that we did. This is similar in that it has the flap that goes over and the pages. And for this one, the envelope gets glued in and then you can pull it in and out. So we could split those up. This is same style. So if we really wanted them to be samesies, we could use that. I have envelope tucks. I'm going to set those aside. We have the clothed tucks that we've done. And all of those are going to be put into it, so I'm going to set them aside. Oh, and I have this, which I forgot about. This is a page insert, which we definitely want to put in here. So let me see. Move these. Let's see where this will fit. Maybe I can pull that extra page out. Do some jostling around here. So if I want this in the center like the other one, and I could just add the page in and not take them apart at all. I think that's what I'm going to do. This one will just have an extra page. So along with the pages, then it'll also have this tuck. So we could either glue it in kind of in here, so it gives it sort of one extra page on one side, or we could reverse it and glue it in on the end so that it folds in. Actually, I think that's what I want to do. So I can glue it around one side and then it will tuck in. I think I like how that looks best. And then this would be in the center. So maybe not on that page because that might be a bit busy, but it could work on this page and actually add a little bit of decoration to that. Let's see how it all looks together. So let's fold it over, and then this, it looks pretty good. This one would be the same type of thing. It would be folded over and then tucked in. But it might be too busy for this part. What if I swap them? This might seem like a lot of time over a silly detail, but it really does change the whole look of it. Yeah, that's better. Otherwise, it's just too busy. But then I don't like this page because those don't look good together. But this is the one where I have an extra page, so I can take this out. And that's okay. We don't need to use that one. And that looks way better. Okay, so that will open, and then this, but this will be there. Perfect. It looks awesome. Okay. I could just start gluing things in. And I think with this particular one I will, because I'm gonna lose track of the decisions that I made. I'm gonna use fabric glue because these actually are fabrics. It's just painted fabric. So just move this over. It starts to get to be a little bit of a mess here with this many things laid out, but and I might spread out more if I was doing it by myself instead of videotaping it. But it's basically just as chaotic if I'm doing it by myself. I feel like I'm running out of space here. So I'm going to glue the fabric down. Make sure it can fold in, that I don't go. Okay, I think that will fold in. Yep, okay. I may have to put a little piece of fabric here just to cover that, or maybe a little bit of lace. But I could use something that's more simple. Or I could just do a decorative right in the crack of it. Then it might not fold very well. Kind of goes with the rest. Yeah, I like that. Well, let's glue this down. And I'm going to actually glue onto the cloth and paper and rub it around rather than trying to get it on that lace evenly. I just think this will be more likely to work. Lace is so hard to glue down without like making it look like a spider web of gunk underneath. I might have made that a little shiny, but I guess we'll see when it dries. Can't all be perfect though. Okay, so we have our fold in, and actually it's the same. I didn't even realize it was the same as what was on the other side. Perfect. That wasn't even intentional. I'm off working on this stuff today because in my neck of the woods there's a storm, and we're all hunkered down in our houses, so I figured there's no better time to put together a book that I've been putting off doing. It's always a project, but when you're done, they're so beautiful. You know it's worth it to do it. Just getting going on it, that is the problem. Okay, so we're going to glue this to this. So I'm going to put my glue down on here. I can leave a little bit of a space because this actually is completed on both sides, so it won't look weird if I leave that extra gap in there. I do want to make sure that I can fold it in without it taking up too much space. Let's see. Okay. So I'm going to put glue just on the edge here and be mindful that it will goop up on fabric if you don't spread it around quickly. Kind of a shame to cover up all the stitching, but that's the way it goes sometimes. Trying to make it even, or straight I should say, so it can fold in. So it folds in here, and then we have our other pages. Okay, now we have our like glue-in additions. So on the more boring pages, I may glue something like this in. Technically it has a back, so you could do a belly band and tuck. It's pretty thick. I think I might put this one here. So when it opens, it'll look like that, and that's a pretty good cover. And I could, let's see, does this work? Not really. But what about the other one? That's not too bad. Could always put it on one of these pages. They're pretty boring. That would go well there. And if I don't want to cover their faces, so we could do a belly band here, and then when you pull this out, you'd have an image behind it. Although it's so thick. What I could do is where you put it on and then you pin it with a, yeah, actually I think I'm going to do that. Actually, I like that. Well, I think I'm going to pause here and we'll put the rest of it in a second video because this is about to be way too long. So I'll see you again next time and you'll get to see this book finally completed.